Recording.
All right, so this is bittersweet. This may be the last preamble, I presume. So as authorized by Virginia Code Section 15.2-1413 and Albemarle County's Continuity of Government Ordinance, this meeting is being held electronically over the Zoom platform. The public has real-time audiovisual access to this meeting over Zoom and real-time audio access over telephone. Everyone on the phone and attending via Zoom from the public is in listen-only mode. If there are any members of the public attending by Zoom who wish to speak during public comment, please use the raise hand feature to notify the meeting facilitator. For those joining by telephone, please use *9 to indicate you would like to comment. State your full name and the magisterial district in which you reside before getting into the substance of your comment. If you don't know your district, provide a general location for your home or business. Each speaker will have 3 minutes to comment. This meeting is being recorded. A copy will be posted on the county's website. And with that explanation, I will ask the board members to identify themselves and their general location. So we'll start with Bucky Walsh.
Bucky Walsh, I'm at my home in the Whitehall district in Albemarle.
Waldo Jaquith.
I am here at my home in Stony Point.
Trevor Henry.
Trevor Henry, residence in Albemarle County.
Let's see, Bill Fritz.
I'm at my home.
Did Supervisor Price make it?
Not yet.
All right, and Supervisor Andrews.
I'm at my home in Samuel Miller District of Albemarle County.
All right, Mr. Chair, that constitutes a quorum, so we can proceed.
Excellent. Well, then having established a quorum, I'll call this meeting to order. Thank you all for being here. The next item on our agenda is to approve the agenda we have. Are there any changes or requests for changes to the agenda? Hearing none. Is there a motion to approve this agenda?
So
So
moved.
moved. Second.
Hear lots of motions for that. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Any opposed? Hearing none. The agenda is approved. Now we'll have brief announcements by authority members. I'll steal the chair here and say, because this is our annual meeting, tonight we're going to elect officers. I'll put in a plug at this time. It's an opportunity for anyone who'd like to have an office other than the office they might currently have to put their name in the hat. There will be no hard feelings whatsoever if somebody goes for, say, chair or something like that. So I invite you to consider that. And with that, is there anyone else who'd like to make an announcement? No? All right. We'll plug on. We turn now to our members attending from the public. If you'd like to address the authority, please use the raise hand feature in Zoom, or if you're on the phone, *9, and we'll take you in order. You'll have 3 minutes, and we'd be happy to listen to you and answer your questions. There's a hand.
James, your ministerial district.
Pardon?
Welcome, James.
Thank you. Yeah, this is actually my first meeting. I was been trying to get up to speed on where exactly we would land in the Broadband Authority's plans. I live on Bleak House Road in Albemarle County, and kind of seem to be the hole in the donut. And and looking at the maps and everything, I don't quite fully grasp what the plan is. I have heard that at some point we might be covered by Firefly through Dominion, but trying to go out and find out any information, it's very difficult to really get any kind of definitive answer on anything.
Are you at the gravel end or the paved end of Bleak House?
Oh, the gravel end, right after the pavement ends.
Have you seen that big spool they delivered to that end of the?
That's the other end of the road.
Are they at the other end? Yeah.
And that, I believe, has associated with what is it, the Shenandoah Cooperative, the Valley Cooperative Electric thing.
I don't know whose spool it is. I just saw it the other day. And
Yeah, I
it
saw
always
it.
piques your interest when they're building near you. It's like, when is it going to come to me?
Yeah, I have this sick feeling that they'll get it on that side of the gravel road because those houses are serviced by the Shenandoah Electric Cooperative. I'm not sure the real name of it. And then us down on the other side end of the gravel portion are serviced by Dominion. And
Well, let me slow you down. The Central Virginia Electric Co-op, these are the folks who own Firefly, and Firefly is the group that's going to be running high-speed broadband to everybody in the county who doesn't have it. The donut holes that turn up on our maps are places, most of those little donut or Swiss cheese holes, whatever you want to call them, are places where there is currently broadband coverage. And so they're not going to be covered under the state grant, but the Firefly program is going to go past those places, and being good entrepreneurs, they expect to offer service to folks in those places as well. The timing for that is to be determined. You'll be happy to know that lots of people, such as myself, are in the same boat. I'd love to know. I don't. And as soon as we have the information available through our partners at Firefly, we'll be working to get that information out. But it's sometime in the next 3 years. Knowing Murphy's Law, I'll be the day before 3 years ends, and hopefully you'll be in 6 months, but I don't know.
okay, yeah, I'd be eager to learn where we fall in it, but I haven't been able to find that information. But thank you for answering the question.
Thanks for asking it. Is there anybody else?
Jay Cannon. Jay Cannon.
Yeah, so I'm another guy on the gravel section of Bleak House Road. I don't mean to gang up on you, but we're certainly a donut hole, if not worse. And what I got today from the Firefly site I looked at was that we were on for 2023 sometime. Obviously, if there were any way to expedite that, that would be great. But that's my information.
Yeah, if there was a way to speed you up, I'd find a way to speed me up too. So I'm right there with you. Is there anybody else? Yes.
David Ludwig. Hi, David.
Hi, good evening, all. I do see you already have an agenda item for a body 2021 update. Just wanted to call out something that perhaps you all would be updating us on as part of that. But so I'm a tranche within the Taylor's Gap project area for the body 2021 projects with CenturyLink Lumen, and just eager in any updates that our date for when we were supposed to be able to apply for service was it came and went last week. I can appreciate the position that the corporate partner must have put you all in, because I know that the county had distributed information as recently as 24 hours before that date that seemed to indicate things were on track. I know you all, having worked closely with you the last few years on this, that you all were clearly providing us the best information you were being provided up to that point. But obviously, we're now, I don't know, some week or so after that date, and we're still not able to order service. So I'll be eager to hear any updates on how things are coming along over there at CenturyLink. Thank you.
Mike, are we going to address that later, or do you want to answer it now?
Yes, it's addressed.
Okay.
Body 21 update. Thank you, Chair.
Then we'll bring it to you later, Mr. Ludwig. Thank you. Is there anybody else?
I just want to make the quick point about the folks asking about Bleak House Road, that we're going to be getting more detailed information from the Central Virginia Electric Co-op, from Firefly, in the months ahead about in what order they're going to be rolling out service across Albemarle. They've got a lot of homework to do to figure out how that's going to work. And of course, they have to work with Dominion, in your case, in order to be able to build out there. So we don't know because it's not knowable yet. Firefly doesn't know yet because it's not knowable yet. But that's the sort of thing that at meetings like this, we're going to continue to provide those updates so that when that is known, we can make sure that as many people as possible are aware when they, because I know that I've got service coming from CenturyLink, Lumen, whatever, by October. And I know what hope it gives you to have that date, what a difference it made in my life to have that date to hang on to. And so we're certainly eager to be able to get you the date on that too, once all the homework is done to figure that out.
Thanks, Waldo. Is there anyone else from the public who'd like to speak? All right, not seeing anyone. Let's move on to the July 27th, 2022 meeting minutes. Bill, did you receive any substantive feedback on your minutes?
Did not. I got your feedback and I followed up with you on that, but no, I got no comments.
And mine was not substantive anyway, so.
The issue, just for those of you, the issue was who said something at a meeting, and it was at the time period that Bucky was glitching in the matrix. So he channeled Mike, and Mike said it.
All right, well, I'd like to move to approve the July 27th minutes that Bill distributed. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Chair
Hearing
Wallace,
none.
I will abstain since I missed that meeting.
Okay, thanks, Trevor.
Yep.
And thank you very much, Bill.
Thank you.
This brings us to the election of officers. Now, Richie has a nice script that he can walk us through if folks want to run for different things. Is there any interest in running for different offices?
I think we're interested in nominating you as quickly as possible.
All right, then let's do this the quick and easy way. Would the board, would someone from the board like to nominate all the current officers to stand another year in their current positions?
I will nominate all the current officers to stand another year in their current positions.
Is there a second for same? Any of
I'll
those
do that.
officers object to that?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Bill. Any of those officers object?
No.
Hearing none, then
No.
let's vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Nay. Then my congratulations or condolences to all of the current officers. You're stuck with it for another year. Thank you all.
I continue to be available in case something terrible should befall you, Bucky. I'm ready. Actually, I'm not ready. It would be a disaster. I have no idea how to run a meeting.
Thank you very much for your service.
Although I'd be very surprised if you had no idea how to run a meeting.
I would need so much handholding, but
You've
it'll happen
certainly been through
eventually.
enough meetings. All right. The next item on the agenda is to establish a schedule for regular meetings, and Richie had produced and circulated a target list of meetings, which more or less follows our same current pattern. One of the things that was observed in that was that the meeting in November would be the day before Thanksgiving, and the meeting in December would be between Christmas and New Year's. I suspect that there will be low interest in attending meetings at those times, and I think there might be some interest in finding sort of a one meeting date in the middle there somewhere, perhaps the beginning half of December that we might meet in, if we can find one. Oh, let me welcome Supervisor Price to the meeting. I didn't recognize that you had joined us. Donna, I'm sorry.
Oh, I apologize. I am participating from my home. My deck painting took 10 minutes longer than I anticipated, and I joined the meeting remotely at 5:11.
Thank you very much. Thanks for coming in.
Thanks.
Back to the schedule for meetings. Before we take up the schedules proposed, is there a day in that November, December timeline that we could schedule just one meeting for and all actually make it? For example, I'll throw my cards on the table. The week of November 28th, I'm not in this country. So not a good week for me. Not impossible, but not a good week for me. But the week of December 5th, starting Monday the 5th, I could meet any day that week.
I can make any day work. My life is super boring.
Any other takers for the first week in December?
That Wednesday is a Board of Supervisors meeting, regular meeting, so.
That's right out then. We won't meet on that Wednesday. How about Tuesday, the 6th?
I always have to do the caveat that
Bill, you're muted
muted.
again,
You're
Bill.
going back and forth on mute
Yep.
there, Bill.
this is what happens when IT gives me a new computer. The Tuesday meetings are always a potential for me with Planning Commission, and I simply don't know at this time, but if you schedule it, I probably can work around it.
Should we shoot for Thursday of that week instead? Is that okay for everybody?
That Thursday is a solid waste alternatives advisory committee meeting, I believe, at 4 till 5:30.
I would recommend going with the Tuesday. If I know
Okay.
this far out, I can schedule any Planning Commission items I have around unless something very strange happens. I just wanted to give that caveat.
Well, let me suggest that we amend the proposed list of meeting dates, combining November and December into one meeting on December the 6th at 5 o'clock. Presumably it will be in the county office building, room 241, if we can get it. If not,
can get it.
somewhere in person where we can get it.
Yeah, I'll try for that, Chair. And if changes happen, we'll figure it out from there. Okay.
With that amendment, well, first off, is there any other discussion about the agenda, or about the proposed meeting dates? Okay, well then I'll move the amended set of meeting dates. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? Just for you, Trevor. Well, then that motion carries, and that's our slate of meeting dates for the next year.
So
Thank you,
just
Richie, for getting that together for us.
one quick thing to recap on that. I'm looking for a hybrid, which means virtual and in person, for December 6th at 5 p.m. The rest of the dates we have booked. I just have to find a place December 6th, 5 p.m. that could be hybrid. Okay, thank you. That's it. Thank
Hey,
you.
Mike,
Yes, sir.
just to clarify, 241 is the only room that you can do that.
Okay,
So go for 241, Mike.
got it. Okay,
And if something comes up and we can't do that, then we'll pick it up at another meeting to set a better time.
okay, right.
The next item is to adopt the rules and policies, rules and procedures, which we've already adopted it, but we've suggested some changes. And Richie, would you like to take us through that?
Yeah, I will do that. So there was a resolution circulated to amend the rules of procedure, also to readopt them. And we do this every year at the annual meeting. Makes it clean going forward to have a new set or a recently adopted set of the rules. This is, as we had discussed in the past, the Virginia General Assembly made changes to the Freedom of Information Act that changed up the remote electronic participation, and also they added an all virtual meeting option. The remote electronic participation is not entirely new to this body. I like to brag on you all because you've had this for 2.5, 3 years already, and have actually used it. I recall at least once when Waldo participated remotely from out of state. It doesn't necessarily. I'm sorry.
It was a big help. Yeah, I think I was on a military base or something, and I couldn't get out of it for work, and I was able to participate. I think at least a couple times I was able to participate remotely. I appreciate it.
Yeah, and the interesting thing is, although we've the county has supported us in a fairly sophisticated operation, at least for me, in terms of the Zoom. Remote electronic participation doesn't necessarily require all the sophistication. It can be done as simply with a teleconference, or I've been in meetings where people have appeared by an iPhone and speakerphone. So it doesn't necessarily have to be logistically as difficult as we do it, but it's certainly better when we can use the technology to make it more seamless. In any event, so it is broken down into essentially two categories: for remote electronic participation, and that's distinct from the all virtual participation. So that's the big thing to remember. The policy, in terms of as it was drafted, had been circulated a month or two ago. There have been some suggested changes, and so I've adopted those. The first one, and what was interesting, there was a training from the FOIA Council a couple weeks ago, and this element was proposed by the chair, Bucky Walsh, to say that if you're going to be participating remotely, can we add an element of safety to it? That being to discourage members from driving down the road and having split or distracted driving and participating in a meeting. And there is precedent for it. The FOIA Council noted that precedent, so I added that in there. The one thing I do want to say is that this is all subject to amendment. It's not mandatory. It's subject to this body debating it, amending it, and approving it as you will. So anyway, I added that one point, and there is precedent for it, and the FOIA Council seemed to embrace that. And then under B, the limitation on remote participation due to personal matters. And again, that exists under our policy now. I will say the new reason for remote participation is if you live more than 60 miles away. I had a debate in our office as to whether anyone would be 60 miles in Albemarle County from Charlottesville. I think the answer was no, but if at some point we start meeting in Scottsville, it's possible that someone could be 60 miles away, but I don't know for sure. So that's the only other addition. And I want to assure you in terms of if you're missing them or if you're remotely participating for personal reasons, you do have to provide the reason in some level of specificity. If it's a medical reason, you don't. And there is an opinion from the FOIA Council that indicated that most bodies, there's no case where a public body has gone behind the member and say, can you prove it? Can you verify it? What's the medical reason? The bodies have been hands off on that for the most part, and that's essentially the way I would see this policy working. The other thing, just from a legal point of view, I would discourage the board from inquiring about a medical or disability reason. I think that has some issues in terms of accessibility to public facilities, and so I don't even want to go there. So anyway,
Richie,
what,
let me let Supervisor Price ask a question.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry, I missed that.
Thanks, and really more intellectual curiosity than anything, but the 60 miles, is that in a radius or is that actual traveling miles?
I don't know.
I'm not sure it matters.
I would assume it's as the crow flies, but I see what you're saying. If I have to come from Scottsville, it might take me 70 miles to get to Charlottesville. I don't.
Well, for what it's worth, I just checked. And from Nortonsville, which is far north, or Mission Home, which is far north as you can go in Albemarle County, to Scottsville, which is not as far south as you can go, is 32 miles. So I don't think you can travel 60 miles from any point in Albemarle and still be in Albemarle unless you take quite a route.
Okay, I would just like to say it was more of just an intellectual curiosity than anything. And Richie, if you'll also go over the difference between the individual virtual versus the body virtual, just so people understand that.
I will do that, and I think that's coming up next. But so, and that's what this highlighted portion right here. And we were talking about personal matters. There's no limit to remote participation for medical or disability reasons. The only limit to remote participation under the remote participation policy is for the personal reasons. And so there was a discussion as to whether, well, what if I have to participate remotely because we go all virtual? And Supervisor Price brought that up. And those are two separate beasts. So if you're going to participate remotely for personal or medical reasons, the board has to have a quorum physically present. In this case, at the county office building. If there's not a quorum physically present, then the prerequisite for remote participation doesn't exist, and you can't do it. You can't have a meeting under those circumstances. And that same FOIA council opinion that I was reading about, the explanation for medical reasons also touched on the reason for the quorum having to be physically present. And that's so that the public has access to a quorum of the members. And so there was a question as to whether, well, if we have a quorum and then we have a member participating remotely and we lose the physical quorum, but maintain a quorum with the electronic participation, can the meeting continue? In my view, in reading, essentially it'd be dicta in that opinion. The answer would be no, because the public doesn't have access to a quorum that's physically assembled at that point in time. I don't think we'll ever get into that situation, but it's possible. In any event, what Supervisor Price wanted me to point out is that participation for remote participation for personal purposes, whether you're out on business or you have a family event or some other reason, is distinct from the all virtual meetings. They're just, if it's an all virtual meeting, that doesn't count for anything. If you have a medical or medical reason for not missing the meeting, but participating remotely, those don't count for anything. It's just personal reasons. We added also, and I mentioned this before, you see down in G, independent verification. This was an addition that did come out of the FOIA Council's presentation. And I thought it puts in words what the practice is. And that's that the bodies just trust the members to proffer their reasons. Personal reasons, you do have to explain a little bit as to what that reason is, but there's not going to be any request for receipts or airline tickets or wedding photos or anything like that. It's a matter of trust, and we take your word for it. The other thing that came out of that seminar was, if you go into a closed session, it's a reminder that you have to maintain the confidentiality and privacy. So that's a change that was added from the last time we circulated the policy. If we go on down, Jason, if we go down to number 9, I think it's 9C8. So this gets into the all virtual public meetings, again, separate and distinct from remote electronic participation. We added the notion that if it's an all virtual meeting and you go into closed session, again, you still have to maintain the confidentiality and privacy. So those are the changes that I just want to, and the final note is, does this apply when there's an emergency or continuity of government ordinance put into place? And again, that's like a third beast, and the answer is no. As for example, today, we're operating under the continuity of government ordinance and under the code section, I think it's 15.2.14.13, takes us out of the remote electronic participation in all virtual meetings. It's just we're under a different umbrella in that situation. So I think that's my full explanation. With that, I will, I guess, open the floor to discussion. And then as the chair calls for any motions, amendments, that sort of thing.
Any questions or comments? I think everyone got it.
Well done, Richie.
Yeah, so let's scroll
I
down a little bit.
wanted to unmute real quick and say very well done also, yes.
So there's a handy motion here. I'll move to that the board adopt this resolution amending the rules of procedure as herein set forth, and to re-adopt the rules of procedure as amended in full. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you for the second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, then the rules of procedure are, and as amended, are adopted, and we'll go forward with those. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you all.
Thanks, Richie. Good job. All right, Mike, moving on to old business, the Vadi 2021 update.
Okay, thank you, Chair. I'm going to promote a few people to panelists. Dolores Carroll, who's with CenturyLink Lumen, and Steve Brewer, who's also with CenturyLink Lumen, and Heather Lee, who's with CenturyLink Lumen. They've all been working with Jason and I on the Vadi 2021 program with DHCD. We also have with us, who I'll promote to panelist, is Carl Caudell. He's with the Department of Housing and Community Development in the Vadi program. So we have a representative from the state agency that provides the funding for the Virginia Telecommunication Initiative, otherwise known as Vadi. And we're glad to have all these folks with us. We met earlier this week and we'll provide some updates. Milton Hills, the construction continues. There was a power problem there. Had to work with Dominion to get power to equipment. Moving on to Taylor's Gap, there were delays that occurred due to some of the rain and workforce resource. We've been talking with CenturyLink Lumen about workforce resources for a while. Hopefully things are working better, and we'll let Steve Brewer update us as I get through this. And then Rosemont, we had a unfortunate situation happen last week where a private but shared water line was cut during construction of what's normally called the laterals that are precursors to actual drops to home. In Rosemont, there are shared water lines going up and down Rosemont Drive, and one of them unfortunately was cut, and that has slowed us down until we can make sure that all of those shared private utilities are appropriately marked. Stony Point, the engineering and the design are completed. We're just waiting for the tranche breakdowns, tranche meaning the areas that seem logical when you're looking through a network design. We're anxiously awaiting the dates for those so that people can understand. And as Director Jaquith has mentioned, it's nice to have the date of when they can expect to order service. So our big problem continues. I think at the last meeting, I brought this up and I'm bringing it up again. We still have a serious issue with activations being ordered, appointments being made. And then for various reasons, those appointments are either no-shows or rescheduled, or in some cases, the customer, the potential customer has provided updates because there's problems with rock or going across another person's driveway. Those are all good, valid reasons. We continue to look for improvement techniques so that those types of pending activations and missed appointments do not carry forward to future project areas. So with that sort of, we're at an issue, I'd like to, bring the board up to speed. One of the major areas where this occurred was at Advanced Mills. And so much so that a string of emails made its way to both the Board of Supervisors, the Broadband Authority, and to DHCD, the state agency that is in charge of the funding for the majority of this project. By doing so, it created a situation where DHCD has had 2 meetings with us so far, trying to determine the best way to move forward. And part of that will be a site visit on September 8th. So DHCD representatives will be in Albemarle County. CenturyLink Lumen has been asked to make sure they have representation as well. And from there, we'll go forward and come up with a much improved methodology for how we're going to address limiting the missed appointments and hopefully, getting into a place where we're not cutting people's power lines or telephone lines or water lines as we go through this project. The other thing that has come to our knowledge that was recently announced is Lumen will begin charging for long fiber drops. The first 5 or 6 project areas, 4 4 or 5 project areas. There was no charge for extremely long fiber drops. In this particular case going forward, we're working with them to make sure we've got a better understanding, even to the list of the likely impacted addresses, because it's important to give the potential customers well ahead of when they're going to receive a quote for what their long drop may cost them. So, and we have a program with the state of Virginia that's called LECAP, that helps lower the cost of those drops if the parcel or the rental or the parcel owner qualifies. All right, next slide. So,
Mike, can I back you up a second?
Sure.
In this
You bet.
context, what constitutes a long drop?
that's a great question for Steve Brewer or Heather Lee. If you all want to drop in, that would be great. Right now, my understanding is anything beyond 600 feet, 650 feet from the nearest fiber serving terminal, which is always a big question out there. Before,
Just to add,
go ahead,
sorry,
Jason.
go ahead. Just
Go
to
ahead.
add a little clarity on the arrival of this news, on the last VADI 21 webinar earlier this month, the FAQ slides that Lumen provides were updated to include this information that you see, which is that about $1,500 per installation is their allowance, and anything above that, there will be charges for the resident. We're still seeking clarity, like I said, on what exactly that 1,500 gets you and what is the expected cost beyond whatever that 1,500 is going to entail. In the prior model from VADI 2020, and actually contractually in what is presented, what is in this contract, it is a threshold of 650 feet beyond which charges began. So Steve, if you wanted to share a little bit more on this.
Yes, that is correct. Largely 650 feet is the approximate threshold that would be that a extremely long drop would take place, and that a charge would be implied. But overall, the cost is actually determined at the buried site check, or the need to investigate additional allowances or the additional charges above and beyond the $1,500 is determined during the buried site check, and then the customer would ultimately receive a quote as a part of that process. We've done some internal investigation as to the approximate impact going forward, and assuming, well, there's typically what we're being told 2 to 3 locations within each tranche that something like this may apply. Certainly, and that would also mean that those particular customers actually applied for service as well. So overall, the impact is going to be minimal in the number of instances when an additional charge would be applicable. Certainly, if you're one of those individuals where it would apply, I can understand the concern with the cost. We're not talking about a large number of additional charges associated with deployment in future tranches.
Thanks for the clarification.
Okay, while we have you on the line, Steve, I was curious on the 34 or 35, and the number increases. We understand the orders are coming in across the board. So, oh, Carl, I'm sorry. Carl, you have a question? Yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't see that.
No,
Thank
no
you.
problem.
Thank you.
I just want to make a point with the LECAP and the LECAP, with the line extension program is, with in regards to the VADI 2021, they can't be within a VADI area.
Oh, okay.
They have to be outside, otherwise you're double dipping.
Okay.
So basically the VADI is, you've selected the area that you're covered by with grant money. So if you're, I'm sorry, Supervisor Price.
Apologize, I meant to mute.
Okay. So yeah, you don't want to double dip
Okay,
when you're doing the leak cap. So it has to be outside the body area. I just wanted to make that clear.
okay, thank you for that clarification. So getting back to the 34 or 35 appointments that are still out there, Steve, can you explain to the Broadband Authority how CenturyLink Lumen or Quantum tracks success? Meaning a person doesn't install, let's use an example of March 30th of 2022 has an install appointment that shows up for April 14th, and they choose this, but then no one contacts them, no one says anything on that day. They get another install date, and eventually someone shows up, but they indicate that they can't do the work that they're supposed to do because another part of the work wasn't done. We know that that's cleared because of the buried site check, but I guess I'm getting to the simple equation. You know, when someone has an install appointment, how does CenturyLink Lumen and Quantum track that to a satisfactory completion? Do you have a list of the upcoming installs and how you're working with your subcontractors to make sure that those install dates are met? Anyway, just a quick overview would be helpful.
Well, certainly we have a list of the install dates and the scheduled appointments associated with those. As you mentioned, we have had some instances where some of your citizens have experienced missed installs and have lacked communication by our technicians and our fiber success team. So as a matter of fact, this week I have been in conversation with the fiber success team, and they are exploring those instances that we're aware of where just that occurred, meaning that a install was missed and there was a failure to communicate with the customer in a timely manner. And as soon as I get feedback from that team as to a resolution there, I'll be happy to get back in touch with both you and Jason to communicate the resolution going forward.
Okay, and Jason and I appreciate the weekly updates, and we continue to hope to see improvements so we can be 100% accurate on someone stays home from work one day to make sure they're there. They can count on someone coming and helping them with their install.
And in that regard, Mike, we do have job requisitions out there to hire 10 additional technicians in the area, and that's above and beyond original plans or original budget numbers. But that effort is in progress right now. Well, unfortunately, it's not a flip of the switch or a snap of the fingers that resolves those issues when trying to bring additional headcount on. In regards to our contractors, I was actually in a meeting involving the contractor team today, and they have been successful in bringing on additional employees that should help us as we move forward, particularly in a really challenging issue of rock boring that we've been facing as of late. Again, new and additional employees have been, our contractors have been able to be brought on board to help us with those issues.
Okay, thank you for the update. So each month we receive an update on the pending, active, and number of passings. So you can see the project areas that are done. Our goal is to increase our take rate. We have up to a year past the end of the project to improve that take rate. We can't make people sign up for fiber, but our hope is that we continue to see an upgrade in these percentages. So that's just the latest and greatest on the passings and what the take rates are currently looking like. I think there might be one or two more on this. Oh, the schedule. So we're working toward the times that we can put back out there David Ludwig, who mentioned earlier that there was once a date for one of the tranches, two of the tranches in the Taylor's Gap. We also had a date for orders to be taken. You know, no one appreciates or no one likes when schedules slip like this. You know, we're counting on CenturyLink Lumen to get back on schedule. And we obviously have a bigger project area over in the southeastern, northeastern part of the county. So working toward that Campbell, Cobham, and Stony Point, we definitely want to keep things rolling. And while I'm on this slide, somewhere in this section, the section between Taylor's Gap, Rosemont, Murray, Campbell, Cobham, and Stony Point going live, there will be a transition of Quantum Fiber and CenturyLink Lumen over to Brightspeed. So Steve, while we're on here, can you guys talk a little bit about what the transition to Brightspeed may mean to both the current Quantum Fiber customers as well as what's going to happen with the later customers that come in after October?
Mike, that date for the close of the transaction from Lumen to Brightspeed is expected on or about October 3rd, is what I'm currently aware of. And, you know, certainly there will be an impact in regards to the citizens and the platforms that they use to place the orders. And as soon as I have full clarity on that information and what locations they should go to in order to place the order, I will make you guys aware of it. We should be getting that in very short order. There's a great deal of work going on as we speak for day one at Brightspeed, which we're all very excited about.
Okay, yeah, just as awareness, we are in receipt of emails from both CenturyLink Lumen and current Quantum customers that indicate that October date is coming. So FYI, I think it's important for everyone to know that those emails are coming out. So there's emails that are announcing the transition. We just want to make sure everyone knows that Quantum is moving forward to Brightspeed in Virginia and the other 19 states, which CenturyLink Lumen is selling both their residential copper and fiber assets. So we'll work through that and make sure it's a clean transition.
Mike, that's going to eliminate the Quantum brand name, and Brightspeed will be a brand. Do I have that right?
Quantum should remain with Lumen Corporation, and Brightspeed will be the company that all of the assets are marketed under at that time.
I see. So Quantum will exist, but it won't matter in Albemarle County. It sounds like anyway that all of the new fiber service will be under the Brightspeed name.
That is certainly my expectation. Yes.
Oh, I'm still getting over the loss of the name Centel to Sprint in like 1997. So this is all dizzying, but thank you.
Okay, moving on.
Mike, are we going to 2022 now?
I do not think so.
Yes.
Okay. Well,
unless there's something else that we want to discuss on 21.
Right. Are there any questions about all of the information we gave on 21 from the AVA board?
It was a packed month, so we just wanted to offer as much of an update as we could.
Okay. Well, thank you everyone from CenturyLink Lumen who attended. And I will bring on the Firefly people. It's great that we're working on so many projects together. Get all these people on board with us. So hopefully we're going to see Gary Wood and Dennis Reese. And I think I'll let Gary take these slides. What do you think, Gary? You have the good news. Let's move forward with it. Some good news. Are you ready, sir?
Hey, how about now? Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
All right. I apologize. I am not at home. I am sitting in a parking lot and on cell service. So I hope I have a fairly good signal. But yes, today our press release went out because on Monday of this week, we finally signed the contract. The last contract, Thomas Jefferson Planning District actually signed the contract with the Department of Housing and Community Development so that we can officially begin work on Body 2022 that was announced last December. So that's exciting.
Yes, sir.
Now, we've been doing what we call soft work under that, things short of construction of fiber, which means we've been doing design work, field data collection. We've been doing make-ready work. American Electric Power is doing some make-ready work in their area. And so I'll do a separate little update, but we have been doing some work. This kicks off the official ability to be reimbursed for construction work. So it's an exciting day.
Okay, just to update the Broadband Authority, the processing of invoices, we will receive requests for payment through the TJPDC. So as Firefly submits information to TJPDC for reimbursement, they will separate those into the 13 counties, and the Broadband Authority will receive a separate invoice, which Jason and I will look over and make sure things look right, and then process through our own finance department. And at that point, it'll go through and be paid directly to TJPDC. So a unique situation, new to us. So we're looking forward to getting this project rolling. And I think it's very exciting news that we've got the full approval from DHCD to start moving forward on this.
Finally under contract.
Right. So do we have another slide on this, Jason? Or are we working through it? I guess I could be.
No, that's the whole one, because
Tracking
the big
along.
update is the contract signing. If people would like, we circulated that press release. If you have any questions about it.
Yeah, and for the public, there's Firefly has done a great job of putting up individual partner sites. So there's information on their website, and we've been instructing or recommending that people sign up and pre-register. So the addresses are there. They can easily put their address in and either run a speed test or not, but get their email added to the Firefly list. So things are rolling along really well with that. Okay.
Just for the record, every time I talk to somebody about this, they're A, excited, and B, want to know when.
Yes, sir. Yes, absolutely. Okay, so we are in the process of working with TJPDC and Firefly to produce an application for VADI 23. The grant application is due on the 25th. Our original plan was to include a number of development areas in the urban ring around Charlottesville. We looked that over, and Firefly had some conversations with DHCD. We had some conversations with the incumbent ISP. Our hope was that we could address some of the needs in the multi-distribution or I can't remember what MDU stands for, but it's certainly
Multiple dwelling unit.
Yes, dwellings. So MDUs were our goal, and unfortunately this round it doesn't look possible that we're going to be able to address that particular goal. Instead, what we're aiming to do is work toward the areas where speeds are around 25.3 and below 120, because each of those areas were not applicable for VADI 22. So if you track back, we originally, submitted for 22 with the case that we would go for universal coverage. One of the ways that we'll address that is with some additional funding to help bridge the gap here and fill the 25.3, 120 areas of the county. The other thing that happened with this is there became a funding necessity. Now, the Board of Supervisors have fortunately provided appropriation for both the broadband office, Jason and my office, as well as the Albemarle Broadband Authority. The money that has been provided is, the source is federal funding, American Rescue Plan Act, for both instances. So back in May, we did some adjustments and looked at the Albemarle Broadband Authority budget. And unfortunately, as we did an internal audit to be prepared for Vivati 23, the number that I had been presenting to the Broadband Authority since May was in error. So the budget dollars that the Broadband Authority had was not what I had presented in the Broadband Authority's financial report. So that error has since been corrected, and we readjusted the Broadband Authority's budget and realized that our best approach for 23 was to utilize the ARPA funds that have been provided to the Broadband Accessibility and Affordability Office. All that to say, this was never a huge concern from a funding perspective. So we worked quickly and efficiently, did a lot of teamwork to put together the required funding documentation. One of the things you have to do with body is make sure that DHCD will accept and feel comfortable allow proof of funding availability. So over the last few days, we've put together the appropriate documentation, and that's been provided to Firefly and TJPDC for submittal. So the good news is we're in good shape with the funding proof and the application. As long as Firefly gets everything they need from the other counties that are involved in the application will go in. So good news on that, and we're looking forward to getting the knowledge of the application being submitted, and then it becomes a waiting game to see if we're able to receive funding. Dennis or Gary, you have any additional words of wisdom on the application process?
Dennis can chime in if he wants a little bit, but we have everything except we're waiting one last letter from Rappahannock Electric Co-op for the little piece where they do some financing. And we expect that in maybe even today. Tomorrow night at midnight is the deadline. We should be ready tomorrow sometime in the middle of the day to push the button to actually enter our official application. But let me just take a quick second to thank Mike and the ABBA staff again. They're such professionals in terms of knowing the way these applications work that we really kind of take advantage of it sometimes and lean on them a little bit for knowing that they can work through the things like getting the funding letters, and also the assistance they provided with speed tests and with different things to help identify and make sure we caught every possible location this time. We were a little disappointed not to get those MDUs in, but I think I don't think DHCD is quite ready to address the areas that have an incumbent who says they deliver 100/20, but is not reliable, or it's not to every location. So we're going to work on that. I still think we'll come up with some solutions for that in the long run. But I think the application we have is really good. We've got close to 1,600 locations in Albemarle out of 3,600 locations total. So again, Albemarle is the largest county in this application as well. And we just appreciate the support of the staff and of ABBA, the board. Dennis, I'm going to let you chime in.
Yeah, and thank you, Gary. I think on the map that you're showing on your screen, it looks like the red is probably the VATI 2022, and the orange is the proposed areas for VATI 2023, if I'm correct there, Mike. Just for the board to to understand what the map colors are. Yes. And from what we know, the service areas in the county between the CenturyLink, soon to be Brightspeed fiber areas and Firefly and Comcast, the county should have 100x20 service theoretically everywhere.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you can see the footprint of the CVAC members. You know, those are currently underway. Most of them are already served. So as you see the blank areas, just realize that those are served or soon to be served areas that are already part of the CVAC network and served by Firefly. Yep. Yeah, great stuff. Okay. Well, that was it for 23. Thanks for all the support, getting us to this point, and we'll see how the application process is through. Looking
Dennis,
forward.
Gary, thanks for the updates.
Yes.
All right, the ABBA financial report. Trevor?
Thanks, Chair Price. Excuse me, Chair Walsh. Habit there. Mike, I think, hit on it. We're working through the budget for the 23 application. Did an audit on all our sources of funding. Recognized that there was an error in our spreadsheet that we'd been previously reporting, and so this does reflect an accurate, updated number. We also looked at our process just for awareness of the authority, that we're going to bring in the budget analyst that supports the county exec's office on a monthly basis to help review and update our budget for future reporting. And we also are connected into the grants management side of finance and budget too. And so I think we found a mistake, have corrected that, and we've adjusted our process that will prevent it moving forward. So beyond that, mea culpa, I don't have any other updates.
Any questions for Trevor?
Maybe this has been described and I missed it, but what was the impact, just as I look at this in front of me, like what was wrong then?
We had an error in the actual summary spreadsheet that I believe the last report would have showed a remaining fund balance of $436,000. So
Got it. Thank you.
If bottom right, if you looked at last month's report, last month's meeting, it would show a overstated number. We were never in danger in any of the appropriations or any of that. It was more of a reporting issue. And as we were looking for sources of funding for the match that Mike just talked about for FY23, that's where we discovered the mistake, and we got it cleaned up.
Thanks for clarifying that, Trevor.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions? You want to keep taking us on to return to in-person, virtual option hybrid meetings?
Mike, who's leading that one?
I can offer up again that if Jason and I will work on this. Let's just make that, we've been quite busy recently. What we would like to do is provide the opportunity, and we can't make this an official Broadband Authority meeting, but we'd like to provide the opportunity to have people come in either individually, solo, or preferably 2-on-2, so that we can walk interested individuals through a pseudo meeting, a faux Broadband Authority meeting in 241. We'll just have to find an available time. The important thing is, we want to make sure that everyone's comfortable in the room and can see both ends of the conversation, meaning there's concerns you would want to present during the meeting, and then be assured that what you're presenting and talking about can be seen and heard by the group that is attending virtually. Many people will move forward and just have trust that the day of the meeting, September 28th, you can just walk in and be assured that everything's going to work well. But if you feel a need to come in and check the room out and get used to what it's going to look like with the cameras running and test out that the microphones are picking your voice up and everything's working well. Jason and I are glad to bring in Nicole. Nicole's with us this evening too. She's the Albemarle IT person. So what we would do is the three of us or two of us would work with you and make sure you feel comfortable. So sometime between now and the 28th.
Mr.
Mike, if I
DeMille,
may-
I'm ready for my close-up.
If I may, Mike, from a experience of the board, it's going to be like it used to be when we were sitting around the conference room table.
Yeah.
So from a board, ABBA board perspective, our interactions will be the same. The art of the virtual access meeting will be through Mike and Jason to administer the virtual viewing for those that of the public that are attending remotely. So there really isn't any change to what you should expect from a face-to-face interaction in room 241. But you all are welcome to come in, work through Mike. Mike and his team have met with the IT department and our AV specialists, and we'll make sure that we're ready to go for game day at the next meeting.
Yeah.
And with that said, as we learned today at the Board of Supervisors retreat, best laid plans and confirmation of technology, working minutes before the meeting does not mean it's going to be a seamless actual experience. It's just something that we'll continue to work through. I do have better confidence in us controlling our technology in a designated space than certainly trying to move it out into some other buildings that the county doesn't have control over from an AV perspective.
Yeah.
Hopefully that helps.
It
Thanks.
does. It does. Mike,
Yeah,
I will follow up with you because I want to make sure, that I know how this is going to work.
Yeah.
And anyone else who wants to, I think I invite them to follow with Mike as well. Thanks, Trevor.
Yeah, sure enough. Okay.
We'll
And,
go on to
sorry.
the BAAO report.
just one thing I just wanted to offer, that one of the things to consider about one of the things to appreciate about the time that was put into preparing for these hybrid meetings, and I know that people have had concerns about hybrid meetings for a while, is hearing everybody that's speaking, and one of the things that the AV team has done an exceptional job of is establishing arrays of microphones that allow anybody in the room to be heard by everybody that is watching. Also, multiple screens, so you don't just have one projector. So things are actually happening in three places on either side of the room, as well as virtually. So there's actually a virtual presentation happening. So that way everybody's getting a roughly equivalent experience as much as possible in that hybrid environment. But the last thing I wanted to mention is it does mean much in the same way that when we are recording or not recording, there's an on-air and an off-air. And so as part of the process, we will show you guys, make sure that you're comfortable with looking up and seeing whether the green light is on or the red light is on, and knowing what those things mean. So we welcome the opportunity to meet with you guys and show you, and hopefully have Nicole help us show you, since it's been a little while.
Now, I'm sure I've said this before, but it bears repeating. I have really appreciated how many more members of the public have been able to attend since our movement to all remote. And one of the metrics I'll be keeping an eye on is how many people continue to attend remotely when all of us are in together. How comfortable does it for those folks? Because right now, any attending sees us exactly as we see each other. We're all on the same footing. I appreciate that what you've been describing is intended to make that as comfortable as an experience as possible for remote participants. But a metric I'll be watching is number of attendees.
Absolutely.
And do they drop off? Is it frustrating?
Right. Yes.
And for my part, I'll continue to be delighted when we move back to a situation where you don't need something approaching broadband to participate in a broadband meeting. All right, Mike, BAAO report.
Turn it over to Jason.
All right, we've got, as usual, three quick topics. The Acv Bridge soft launch, which continues, the CenturyLink Lumen service update, and some brief remarks on the regional digital equity plan that we are embarking on as an element of coalition building, which I think will lead nicely into one of our subsequent new business topics. So the Acv Bridge Program, this is the supplement to the Affordable Connectivity Program that we've been working on for 10 months now. And we are still at the point of working with providers to get memorandums of understanding signed. We have lots of interest from providers, larger providers, smaller providers, and there's a little bit of wait and see with these sorts of things, but we've had lots of opportunities to discuss this with them, get feedback, offer responses, and so we are hopeful that we're going to be seeing an MOU very soon and start issuing these service credits. This is something that we've been building to and that we're really excited about as a large portion of our affordability efforts. The CenturyLink Lumen update, this is related to the transfer of assets intervention that led to the response from Lumen that they were going to seek to rehabilitate as many of the resources that they had. Oh, Mike, I think you're sharing now.
Yeah.
Did my share stop? Oh, I'm
I think
so
it
sorry.
did. No, it's okay.
I'm
I
so
caught
sorry.
up. I caught up.
Okay.
No apologies. Keep rolling. Let's.
I
get
didn't
through
realize
this.
I'd stopped sharing.
Hey, I just while I have the floor here, I wanted to thank Gary and Dennis. I think I was neglectful a little bit. Thank you guys for attending this evening and providing the update. So yeah, okay, back to you, Mr. Inofuentes. We're good. We're good.
Anyways, sorry about that. The last status update, which was sent to Supervisor Price, was that Lumen is at 95.37% of work completed. Notably, it sounds like the work that they are struggling to complete at this point is on Elliott Avenue and Avon Street, which I believe are in the city. But once that is completed, their rehabilitation work is going to be complete. Our plan from the office's perspective in terms of tracking at this point is to resume tracking complaints for outages in the county at the point where that they reach 100% and see if in a 6-month time frame, roughly equivalent to our prior analysis, the rate and frequency and time to restoration goes down. That is also data that we know that the State Corporation Commission is going to be tracking. And so we hope to also cooperate with them to engage them in this effort to see whether there's going to be an improvement in performance when it comes to outages and other service disruptions. And then our regional digital equity plan. So this sort of came from our efforts to try and take a longer perspective look at how we're going to engage our strategic goals. And one of the things that has become apparent is it's very difficult for us to ignore the 10 square miles right in the middle of us, as well as the many acres that are tied up into a state organization. And so we think it's important as we move forward to actually take a regional approach to some of the things that we're going to be engaged in. This is particularly true for affordability efforts, but also for digital inclusion and digital equity planning, and could have an impact and a relationship to broadband expansion efforts. We've already started working at a regional level, but that has mainly been provider driven and grant driven as they have sought opportunities. But I think as we look towards the future of potentially working in broadband expansion in the development area, it would make sense to also think from a regional perspective. So our initial efforts began with the University of Virginia's Equity Center, as well as with Professor Chris Ali, who is now at Penn State. We hope to involve the city of Charlottesville, obviously, and begin stakeholder and community engagement activities. There in particular, we're excited about the possibility of engaging in some focus groups activities that are going to be for targeting affinity groups, so public housing residents, seniors, individuals that often are fall behind when it comes to digital equity. The product of all this would be a regional plan that assesses barriers to access and affordability throughout our community, and then also plans for coordination of initiatives to achieve digital equity. This would include ACP outreach grants in coordination with community organizations that serve the entire area, coordinating future broadband expansion projects, and leveraging community assets to achieve broadband goals. Happy to answer any questions about this.
You're thinking big. I appreciate it.
Yeah, the county has a newer value called community, so we're very much engaged with our Office of Equity and Inclusion, and certainly will appreciate the help that comes from that. And we think that this is a huge value that we need to push forward in the county, and broadband is a very important part of that because it does level the playing field, but only if there are affordable plans out there. And right now, that's not the case. So we're working to see a little bit more equity, and it's a broad goal. The Commonwealth of Virginia has to produce their own goal and their own plan. So we'll be impactful, we hope, in helping make that happen as well. Jason, you're doing a great job with this. We'll keep it up.
Right.
Yeah.
And then with that, are there any other questions?
Oh.
No. So we can move to our strategic plan discussion.
This is the part where the chairman runs the meeting.
So apologies. I haven't read the rules. I'm not on that email list.
Does everybody else read the strategic plan, every 6 months or so? Because I was reading it a couple of weeks ago, and there are some obvious things when you look at the strategic plan that beg for examination. And as Jason has on the slide here, this first bullet, we are getting to the point where maybe we need to have a different, goal as what we're trying to accomplish. I think we should certainly contemplate that, and I don't mean to resolve that at this meeting. I think there's, but I'd like to ask everyone to consider this question and think about where we want to go, what we want to be, because the rest of the strategic plan really falls from that. And this next bullet, what role does ABBA play? We're in a situation right now where the VADI 2023 planning is going to use, well, let's back up a little bit. Everything the Broadband Authority has done has involved Mike Culp, and at that initially stealing some of his time as the IT director, and then now involving Mike and Jason out of the broadband office to actually get many things done. When we started, there was no broadband office. There was only, stealing a little bit of Mike's time, and sometimes we'd be able to hire some other folks in to help out. But really, it was what we were able to do as a broadband authority is help provide some direction and some focus for some of those things. The county has evolved and now has a broadband office, recognizing this as a fundamental activity of county business. And with this current VADI 2023 situation, the county, through the broadband office, is actually putting up the funding to go forward with Firefly and the TJPDC and get that done. It raises, and I mean this with no negative sense at all, it raises in my mind a question of, well, what does ABBA do? Do we still have a role? I mean, there's no point having extra layers that don't contribute. So if we're not contributors here, what is our role? What's the bright line between what the Broadband Authority does and what the Broadband Office does? Or is there one? And I would like to, again, I don't mean to resolve that question at this time, but if folks like Donna who'd like to weigh in, have some input there, I'd love to hear that input.
Thank you, Chair Walsh. Thank you, Chair Walsh. I really do think there's a difference, and I don't think the ABBA mission is complete yet. The BAA office is to help people where broadband has already been extended, but are having difficulty with delivery or receipt of services. And ABBA is still working to ensure that there is the infrastructure for the delivery of those services. And while I agree that with the great work that has been done by ABBA and Mike and Jason in the success through VADI and bringing broadband, we hope that ABBA will work itself out of a job, but I just don't think we're there yet. And until we reach that point, then I think ABBA needs to stay in existence.
Jason? Jason, did you have your hand up?
As somebody who has been burned by legislative spending authority in the past, I think one of the things to acknowledge is that one of the key roles that a broadband authority can play is granting authority, which is something that we cannot.
No, we can't.
The broadband office can't. The authority has more leeway in granting authority. Richie would probably chime in now, maybe.
I would,
That's
so I'm
very
not,
provocative statement there, Jason. That was very provocative.
clearly, I mean, Mike and Jason know I'm not an expert in terms of the financing from the county point of view. However, I think the Broadband Authority has a particular mission that places it in a stronger position than the county. The county has significant flexibility to spend locally generated funds. VADI is a particular legislative enabling authority that allows the county or the Broadband Authority to do things. But the Broadband Authority is charged. It has more particularized charges that does allow it, I think, to partner with private providers to establish networks. And I'm looking over the strategic plan, and I think there's other projects that broadband can get involved in that perhaps the county cannot. But we're in a unique environment where the broadband office is able to leverage and use locally generated resources. And under VADI, they can use the ARPA funds. But when that goes away, they'll be in a much more restricted environment than the Broadband Authority will be in. So Chair Walsh is correct. We don't have grant authority. It's very similar to the Economic Development Authority. I keep pushing that. I wish we did. We don't, but we still have the authority to partner with private providers to accomplish what our legislative purpose is. So I add that for what it's worth.
Where I'm headed with this is not obviously to wring out our strategic plan or turn in the shingle for ABBA at this time. What I would like is to entreat each of you to consider the strategic plan and provide feedback to me so that when we meet next time, at least a week before the next meeting, I would like to circulate an updated strategic plan for everyone to look at. And then we can kick off a discussion at that time, because I think it's much easier to criticize something than to synthesize it as a group. You can have a discussion that time about what has changed and if that meets the group's future needs or not. If that sounds okay, if there aren't any other comments at this time. Okay. Well, then that's what we will do. And then that brings us to the October 5th Board of Supervisors meeting.
So I asked this to be placed on the agenda. I've discussed it with Richie and wanted to let the whole board know that it is likely there will be 4 ABBA members in attendance at the October 5th meeting for a special use permit. It's a wireless application for Scrooby. And there have been comments made by the public and by the applicant about how broadband may be served by this. It is not a meeting of the Broadband Authority, and the purpose is not to discuss broadband. The purpose is to discuss the special use permit, but there will be 4 members in attendance. And I wanted to bring that up and make sure we have a plan of action to address that.
Supervisor Price?
Thank you. Bill, thanks. Would you just send an email to the clerk and copy Steve Rosenberg just to make sure that we have on our script and agenda appropriate language for that?
Yes, I can do that.
Thank you.
And I will add that that for the Board of Supervisors had their strategic planning meeting this morning. And I think there was a question of 3 broadband authority members meeting. I drafted and posted a supplemental notice to comply with FOIA. Again, it's to strictly comply with FOIA and just say that if anyone were to challenge that as a broadband authority meeting, then we'd be able to say that it was posted and it was noticed in a lawful manner. So I will work with Steve, the county attorney, to make sure we check all those boxes.
Thanks, Richie.
Thank you, Richie. Jim, you had your hand up very briefly, and I wonder if you were trying to weigh in on the last topic.
No, I'm fine. Thank you. Sorry.
Okay, great. Very well. Is there any other business we should take up at this time? Well, then I'll ask for your comments and thoughts on the strategy plan over the course of the next couple of weeks. And then I'll get something back to you a week before the next meeting. And look forward to seeing you in person at the next meeting. So that'll be great. Is there a motion to adjourn? I'll move to adjourn. A second. Thank you, Waldo. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The meeting's adjourned. Thank you very much.
Thank
I'd
you.
like to make a quick social point. I see Chip German's name in the attendees, and it's weird to name somebody who can't speak because they're not in the room. I want to point out I had access in the first place as like a 15-year-old because Chip was behind the establishment of what was called the Hopper Project at UVA, and then renamed the Monticello Avenue Virtual Village. It was life-changing. Like in this scenario in which Mont Ave didn't exist, I'm not on this broadband authority. My career is completely different. So just want to thank Chip for, I don't know exactly what your role was, but I couldn't appreciate it more.
Thanks, Waldo.
Thanks.
And thank you, Chip.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, y'all.